On the 13th of November 2019, an empty intercity express train caught up and collided with a high-speed train approaching the Neville Maintenance Depot in Leeds. We now take a look at the incident in full, looking at incredible CCTV images to try and piece together how two trains can collide on the same track in the 21st century. Neville Depot, located 2 miles to the east of the city of Leeds, is a train maintenance depot that is owned by Network Rail but operated by Northern Trains for light and heavy maintenance. For trains leaving Leeds station who want to enter the depot, they must travel on the downhill main line, passing signals Lima 3697, Lima 182 and Lima 772 on the downhill goods loop. Once past Lima 182, then the maximum line speed reduces to 15 miles per hour, and due to the track being electrified only up until the depot, the APCO, known as the Automatic Power Changeover System, creates a power source changeover from electric to diesel on the Class 800s who are continuing on the main line. Lima 772 is a 3-aspect signal that shows a position light and route indicator. If the position light clears the 2 white lights, then this authorises a driver to pass the main red signal with the knowledge that you are about to enter a track that is already occupied by a train. This is known as being called on in the railway industry. The accident that day involved 2 trains, both operated by London North Eastern Railway, an IET, otherwise known as an intercity express train, and a HST, otherwise known as a high-speed train. The IET, a Zoomer train involved, train 5 Delta 29, was unit number 800109 and consisted of 9 carriages weighing over 430 tonnes. Its driver had 39 years experience on the railway. However, this was his 3rd unaccompanied drive on the IET trains. On the 13th, it had completed its passenger service for the day with a head code of 1 Delta 29. At 21:21 hours, it was on platform 9 at Leeds station, ready to drive an empty train into Neville Depot. The second train, high-speed train number 5 Delta 24, consisted of 2 power cars 43308 and 43300, had just completed its passenger service to Harrogate and arrived at Leeds station at 21:17 hours onto platform 8 with an empty train. The driver had 23 years experience. At roughly the same time, both of the trains involved in the accident that day were unknowingly sat within nearly touching distance of each other, waiting to be signalled into the depot. At 21:31 hours, the HST 5 Delta 24 left Leeds station and travelled as normal, getting permission to go and proceed past all signals until arriving at the final signal, November 18, which was showing a red light to go into the depot. At 21:35 hours, the IET numbered 5 Delta 29 was given the signal to make its way to Neville's depot. Each route driven on the railway requires a head code to help rail staff such as drivers and signallers manage movements and timetables. 2 days prior, the same driver had driven into Neville's depot but had forgotten to include the head code. This resulted in the APCO not recognising the head code and automatically switching the power from electric to diesel. He had concerns that Hitachi would report the engine switch on without preheating. After ringing his manager, it was agreed that the empty coach stock head code should be entered to avoid the previous scenario. However, on entering, the TMS known as the train's management system, did not allow the head code. Therefore, he decided to isolate the APCO to stop a repeat of the previous day. The next set of events shows CCTV images from train's 5 Delta 29's front-facing camera of before, during and after the incident. After approaching the APCO, no change of power occurred. At 21:39 hours, train 5 Delta 29 approached signal Lima 772, and the driver noticed train 5 Delta 24 stationary up on the tracks ahead in the distance as shown, waiting to get a signal to enter into the depot. The image shows that the signal cleared to display 2 white lights indicating to the driver that he was allowed to pass at caution towards the high-speed train, which the driver had experienced many times before. Over the next 25 seconds, he slowly moved towards the HST, the high-speed train, and at 21:40 and 55 seconds, just as he began to deaccelerate to stop before the high-speed train, the signal November 18 ahead of the high-speed train cleared, causing its driver to slowly move towards the depot at 5 miles per hour. At 21:41 and 5 seconds, the IET came to a brief stop. The driver was now keen to reinstate the APCO and turned his attention to the TMS screen. However, seeing the high-speed train move off slowly, he decided to follow it. He moved his brake controller back to demand a lower braking force, while continuing to focus on the TMS. Completely unaware that his train was catching the high-speed train up, he managed to reinstate the APCO using the TMS touchscreen. While his focus was elsewhere, you can see from the camera that he was quickly approaching the high-speed train. Just 2 seconds later, the driver suddenly noticed the high-speed train ahead and quickly applied the emergency brakes, but it was too late. At 21:41 hours and 32 seconds, you can see train 5 Delta 29 crashing at 15 miles per hour into train 5 Delta 24, which was only doing 5 miles per hour. The impact immediately derailed the trailing bogies of the second and third vehicle on the IET. The high-speed driver, who had been hit despite being over 250 metres in the distance, believed that his engine had exploded and applied the emergency brakes. As the IET had derailed, at 21:41 hours and 40 seconds, the 2 trains came apart, and you can see the damage caused to the high-speed train in front from this final CCTV image. Straight after the incident, both drivers contacted the signaller in York, and personnel arrived from the depot to ensure the safety of both drivers and isolate the scene. The RAIB were contacted and arrived the next day. Even though the railway operates on one train in one section of track at a time, there are occasions when this rule could be broken. It is known as permissive working and was utilised on this section of track to allow many trains behind each other to not block the downhill main line. It became quickly apparent that the driver of the IET paid too much attention to the TMS screen and applied too much acceleration. This was because he was trying to reinstate the APCO, which he had isolated due to being unable to type in the head code. London North East Railway trainee drivers to follow these steps when inputting a head code. Number 1, type driver's login ID. Number 2, press login. Number 3, type train head code. Number 4, press enter, brings up train's details. And number 5, press home to move to home screen. However, when the driver followed this on the night at Leeds station, it didn't accept the head code. This is because the instruction missed step number 5, which allows the TMS to accept the head code. An RAIB investigation found that the instructions came from a copy of an Hitachi document. They found the document very ambiguous and was not very clear on the head code procedure. The driver was found to have mainly driven HSTs and only had 3 days on the IETs, therefore was extremely inexperienced. When comparing acceleration of both HSTs and IETs, the RAIB discovered that when applying similar demands on the train as what occurred in the accident, the high-speed train reached 15 miles per hour in 27 seconds compared to 8 seconds on the IET. London North East Railway had not factored in this, and the RAIB blamed the lack of theoretical and practical training when drivers go from driving HSTs to IETs. Network Rail were also criticised with not carrying out a risk assessment of permissive working heading into Neville's Depot. The RAIB made several recommendations for this accident, which included training on the TMS for all drivers, managing in-cab distractions, and advice if unable to achieve the required purpose on the TMS screen. This is an accident that could easily have been avoided, and luckily there were no passengers on the trains. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more real life horror videos. Thank you.